Hey, it's Tom. I just want to take a few minutes and show you guys what I've been up to. I want to demo a tool that I've been playing with over the last couple of days called Rancher. Through trial and error, been able to get it to run on an Ubuntu server that I have in my basement. I'm running the cluster and the node all in a single box. And like I said, just a quick demo so you can see how to get up and running quickly with Rancher, which makes managing Kubernetes much easier. So I'm going to SH onto my box. At this point, the only thing that I've done is I've installed Docker. I don't have Kubernetes installed. You can see there's no kubectl or anything, just Docker, and I'm not running any Docker containers. I'm using some instructions that I found on the Rancher website. Again, they make it very clear that this is not supposed to be used in production. It's just a quick way to get up and running with Kubernetes and say like a home lab or for a demo so you can try out some of the different features of Kubernetes. And with that, I copied the Docker run command. You'll notice I modified the port on the host to be 8080 instead of port 80. This is important a little bit later on. And I also edited port 443 to be 8443. Again, this will be important later on in the demo. I'll just copy those, paste them into my server, and we'll wait just a minute while we download some images. All right, so the images have downloaded, and let's see if they're running. And right now it's just that one image, just the Rancher image. It's been up for 9 seconds. Let's see if we can get to our web UI. And again, it's using HTTPS. Make sure you include that. It's not up quite yet. There we go. Obviously, because it's running on a local host, we don't have a good certificate, so you just kind of got to proceed anyway. Go ahead and set a password for the admin user, and then continue. And this is the Rancher server URL, just for this demo, internal IP address, again, :8443. And now we're inside Rancher. So the first thing that we want to do is create a cluster. A cluster is essentially where we're going to be able to run our nodes, and within our nodes, we'll be able to create some pods for Kubernetes. So go ahead and add a cluster. Rancher's neat because it allows you to interact with a bunch of different clouds. You can see we've got Amazon, Azure, DigitalOcean, Linode, vSphere, amongst others. For this example, however, we don't actually have a cloud to deploy to, so we're going to do a custom deployment because we want it all to run on this one server. For the most part, everything in here can stay as it is. We're going to create a cluster called Sandbox. We'll go ahead and use Kubernetes version 117 that Rancher provides. We'll use the Canal network. Cloud provider again is none because we're not deploying there. And from there, you can go ahead and click Next. Because we're running everything on a single node, we also want to include the control plane and etcd. Copy this command here. You can see it's going to run a Docker command. It's going to create a privileged container. It's going to use the network of our host. It's going to volume mount in etc Kubernetes from the host into the container, var run from the host into the container. It's going to run the Rancher agent. And then we pass in some specific variables for our installation, such as the server URL, the token, the checksum, and then the additional node options that we want. Again, copy that and paste that in. I'll provide my password. And then we wait once again. So once that's done, go ahead and click done here. And now we've got a sandbox and we see provisioning. And right here, this will change as the provisioning progresses. And you'll see that it failed to get job complete status. That's okay. Apparently in this version of Rancher, as far as I can tell, that's normal behavior the first time. There we go, we got the complete message, and now it's continuing. It's unfortunate that the text stays red for the rest of the provision, but don't worry, as long as it's continuing to move and it doesn't seem to be repeating steps, you are in good shape. All right, so at this point, we've got a cluster, and then we can run docker ps, and now we've got a bunch of Docker images all running on our local box. So now we go up here, we can see we've got a sandbox under our clusters. Then we want to go down here. We have two projects, one's default, one's system. We want to actually create a system app under here. We're going to use one of the Rancher tools called Longhorn. I'll show you how to do that. So you go down here, you go to System, click on Apps, and you can go to Launch. And these are Helm charts that have been provided by default through Rancher. You can add more charts, or more chart repos rather. But for now, what we want is right here. It's called Longhorn, and it's experimental. This will allow us to have persistent storage on our host. So Rancher makes it super easy, as I mentioned earlier, to integrate with other cloud hosting providers. And again, because we're running on a local server and not going to the cloud, we need something that will provision storage for us. So Longhorn accomplishes that. So we'll go ahead and click on Longhorn. And everything in here you can leave to the default unless you care to change the name, but Longhorn system, totally fine with me. We're going through here. I don't have any of the CSI driver settings. Default settings are fine for right now. A Rancher proxy is what we want. And we'll go ahead and click launch. You can see that the Longhorn system is being installed. You can then click on it and you can see what's being deployed. So there's 3 workloads. There's a driver, there's a manager, and there's a UI. And they're being pulled down. Cool. So now all of our workloads are active. We can see that we've got one image per workload that's running. And then we've also got a UI here. So I can see that I've got 307 gigs of storage available. 137 of it's reserved. Right now we've got no volumes. So let's go create our first app then and deploy that to Kubernetes. So we'll go back up here. We want to create a default. We want to create an app under default. So we'll go to apps, and then we'll go to launch, and let's make a WordPress website. We'll go through here. There's some things in here that we will want to change. WordPress is good. This is the chart template. WordPress for the namespace is fine as long as you don't have any other namespace as WordPress. Create a user called Tom, set a password. That's fine for now. We do want to have a persistent volume, so I'll change this to yes. And this is important. Right here, you want to make sure that Longhorn is available. If Longhorn is not available and you try and do persistent storage, your app will hang on the deployment. We'll also configure the database. WordPress with this chart uses MariaDB. Again, everything in here is good. We also want to enable persistent storage for Maria, and we want to use Longhorn as well as our storage class. Because we are not running on the cloud, we do not have a layer 7 load balancer, so this will be false, and we'll create a node port. Node port just means that it will run on a port on my server, and we will create an ingress point after this has been created. So after that, you can go ahead and click launch, and you'll notice that it's very similar to the Longhorn process. You can click on WordPress. You can see it's already created the endpoints for me at 192.168.1.9. Again, that's my server IP address. And we're spinning up a MariaDB instance and then the WordPress PHP application. See that I've got volumes now. I've got a WordPress volume, it's bound. It's using the Longhorn service. So we'll wait as those images are pulled down for the MariaDB and the WordPress and initiated. All right, so now we've got the MariaDB instance and the WordPress site running. We have these two endpoints, one's for HTTPS and one's for HTTP. HTTPS will not work because we do not have certificates, so click on this one and we get that it's a bad request because that's SSL. And we'll go to this one and hey, there is the WordPress website. And go to /wp admin, type my name and password that I set earlier, and I can manage the WordPress instance from here. Cool. But this is all fine and dandy if I can remember my IP address of 192.168.1.9 and then port 32274. However, that's not the most user-friendly URL. We're going to create an ingress point. I'm going to go up here to resources. We're going to click workloads. Then under workloads, we have this load balancing tab. So go ahead and click load balancing. And then in here, we will add an ingress. And we'll call this WordPress. Well, let's just call it ingress for now. The namespace is going to be WordPress. We want to automatically generate an XIPIO hostname. You're welcome to do that. I have my own hostname that I'd like to use. So I'll do wp.thomashastings.com. And we'll choose the workload. We want to go to WordPress. We want to hit the root path, and it's port 80. WordPress runs on port 80 inside of the pod. So with that, we'll go ahead and click save. And then we see that our port is initializing. Sorry, not our port, but our ingress is initializing. And then at this point, I'll go to my DNS provider. Let me log in here. And then it's in here where I can change my DNS for thomashastings.com. You can go to advanced DNS. And we created the WP. Notice I already have an IP address in here. This is my external IP. What's my IP? 7314. So this is my external IP address. 73. Cool. So we'll go ahead and save that. Then we'll go back to here and we can see that this is active. Us changing the DNS had nothing to do with this going active. Let me say that again. Us changing the DNS had nothing to do with this going active. But let's see if it works now. So you can go back here. We can do wp.thomashastings.com. And hey, what do you know? Let's create a new post. So you'll notice I'm back here on 1.9. Let's add a new post. We'll go ahead and publish this post. And then we'll view the post here. Then we can also go over here and refresh. Notice that we are on the wp.thomashastings.com. And there you have it. So that's how you add an ingress point for your application. And then, so we had to change the port on the initial Rancher instance from 80 to port 8080. And the reason we did this is for that ingress service. Had we not changed the port and we left the port at 80, it would not have worked with our ingress. The ingress would have just stayed at initializing because it couldn't stand anything up on port 80. So by changing to port 8080, our ingress was able to succeed. And one of the neat things that Rancher provides is this monitoring tool. So we've got our sandbox, and here's some of the metrics you're able to pull. We actually want to enable monitoring to see the live metrics, however. So we'll do that, and we'll enable that, and it will take just a moment for us to get live monitoring, but this will start exporting metrics for us to view in Grafana here. There we go, so you can see monitoring API is not ready. We did have a jump in CPU and a little bit of memory as it goes through and is installing these monitoring APIs. And if you wanted to keep an eye on where this was happening, this is all system level, system apps, and you can see we have cluster monitoring being installed and deployed. And in addition to the monitoring, we'll come back to this in a minute, we also have, over here, we have some resources. One of the resources we also have available to us is Istio. Go ahead and enable that. And now Istio is able to monitor the pods for us once it's installed. Let's go back and see if our API is ready. Not quite yet. Let's see where it is on the install. It's deploying. You can see Istio is deploying as well. Cool, and here is our upgraded metrics using Grafana. And as data comes in, it will populate these tabs. And then the same is true for our apps. Go to resources, you can go to Istio now, and eventually, give it enough time, these tabs will all populate as well with metrics from Istio. All right, and you might be asking, why would I want to do this, go through this much trouble, when I could probably deploy WordPress with a Docker Compose file, in 2 minutes? Why would I want Rancher to do this? And the thing that Rancher provides you is the ease at which to manage Kubernetes and the Kubernetes clusters. And in this case, let's say we wanted to scale up the number of PHP applications we have. You can literally click the plus button, and it will scale up our WordPress to 3 instances now. Cool. So with that, that was a quick introduction to Rancher. Let's see if we've got any sort of more of the metrics that we'll be able to look at. There we go. Cool. So here are more metrics. And again, Istio takes a little bit longer to load some of the metrics, but they will be there as well. Cool. With that, that is Rancher. Thanks for watching.